Hello, it is the Dailies on Echo Television International. We keep you updated with a lot of stories from the Nigerian newspaper. I am Stella. Say good morning.
Morning, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great.
All right.
Please do want to drop a comment or your contribution of any of the story that is of interest to you. And as we do it always, later on the show, we will open the phone line so you can also air your view on any of the stories. And we'll go straight into the paper. Rachel will be taking us through the first paper.
On Nigerian Tribune, cabinet list shock as Lagos Assembly refuses to confirm Abayomi Omotoso 15 others. However, 22 have been confirmed. You can find more details on page 3. The big story on Nigerian Tribune, financial experts warn over $3 billion NNPCL loan. The writer says Naira sells at 910 Naira at parallel market. Risks averse investors bid 1.5 trillion naira for 364 days treasury bills as rate jumps to 13.9%. You can find more details on page 6 and 7. NDLEA launches manhunt for suspected drug dealer who crushed operatives to evade arrest. Again, Emefiele orders arraignment stalled. You can find more details on page 29. Wagner boss Prigozhin among 10 killed in plane crash in Russia. U.S. commits $9 million to humanitarian assistance disaster response in Nigeria. You can find more details on page 4. APC vacant NWC zonal positions intrigue as Edo supplants Cross River. Kaduna Abia orders retains slots. You can find more details of that story on page 15. Travails of Nigerians, other immigrants on skilled workers visa left destitute in UK. This is a report for those who are still planning on Japan. To find more details on page 19. Then that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper. Fuel subsidy removal. I am shocked, scared of the FG lack of plan for Nigerians. Lament Obaseki. You can find that story on page 29. The big story. Alert 6.9 billion naira fraud. Federal government Emefiele explore plead by gain option. Arraignment shifted indefinitely. You can find more of that story on page 4. Fresh crisis looms as APC fill vacant National Working Committee zonal leader positions. Protest trail Abia, Cross River, Kogi approved candidates. More can be found on page 8. And on job scam probe, rep angry over refusal by the 300 MDAs to honor summon, issue final warning. We can find more of that on page 29. We won't tolerate failure, Nigerians warn ministers. Wike inspect rail transport project and first official assignment. More can be found on page 26. NDLEA launches manhunt for Lekki drug dealer who crushed operative to escape arrest. UK pledges to work with ECOWAS leaders to restore civil rule in Niger Republic. PDP Adebutu case against Abiodun, pack of lies, APC governor tells tribunal. You can find on page 29. Lagos Assembly rejects 17 commissioner nominees. More can be found on page 6. And the last story here, National Assembly to revisit gender equality bill assures Apabio. More can be found on page 6. And I think women will be happy with this. If I reach, you're already smiling. Women will really be excited the fact that they want to revisit that. Women have been pushing forward for this. In fact, I clearly remember the former first lady was there in the house at the time. It was never heard of before, but she was in the house just so that the ninth assembly then will actually consider women. I clearly remember her even saying that for those who are vying for position presently right now, like for governor or president, should carry women along as they are running late.
Yeah.
And it will really make women to know that they are included in decision making. And now we're seeing, especially when it comes to the parliament, you can actually handpick how many women are representing the women there, because regardless of who they are representing, one thing with women, they want to be included. And we've had over the years, we've seen how women have been changing the narrative over the years. So right now we've seen that Apabio is actually saying that they will revisit that. So we hope to see more women be included, not just in the parliament, but even in every sector, because they have something equally to contribute. And I think it's important that they're given a fair hearing when it comes to that.
Yes, Ella, we need to be included because there are certain rights that only women can fight for women, because we are in the position to understand what it feels like to be in certain position, to make our voice heard and be able to put it as it is out there. Yet it will mean inclusion in a lot of way, and then it, in as much as it doesn't mean there is no work, it means more work for us, because if this bill should be able to pass, it's not just equality and then you sit down and feel you just deserve the right. No, there is no entitlement to the word will come your way. It still means you have to work as a woman out there that want to be heard and want equal leverage and then opportunity to certain things. It means you have to put the same work out there that will warrant you getting such a position and proving that you are fit for it. So it's not for women out there, you should know that it's not about being entitled to things like that, but it means more work, because you have to keep proving yourself that you are worth having this position, giving this power and all of that. But yes, it is a good one, because we will see with this, we will see more women being represented as lawmakers, as representatives in the House of Reps and all of that. And for me, it just means that, and for every woman out there, it means that we will have bills and rights out there that will be heard, the ones that are important to us, that will mean will help our growth in the country. And of course, we know that when women are growing, the entire nation grow. We can bring that down to our household. When we grow, even our families grow and all of that. So yes, it is a good one, and we just hope that women understand that it means more work, because we have to keep proving ourselves worth giving such attention in the first place. So yes, it means more work, and I believe that for those pushing for it, they are ready to put that work.
You just pick that word out of my mouth. It means more hard
means
work.
more hard
Because
work.
as a woman, you have to do twice the work to actually
That's
show
true,
that you
Sally.
have what
Yes,
it takes to be given
true.
that position. I believe the women can do that. So
We
we
are
just give them the
capable.
benefit of doubt
Yes.
while the National Assembly revisit that. And that's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, Julius Berger, 10 years of endless agony, pains on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The big story, 24 years after Nigeria's space program lose traction despite yearly allocation. You can find more details on page 6, and I believe this was triggered as a result of the new space program. Other countries and Nigeria are now bringing 24 years after. So I believe that we've gone past situation or level where we will have to wait till we see other people succeeding before we come. Why have there been allocation for all these years? We haven't heard anymore about anything much again about our space program, and now we are having it on the on the paper as well. If these are the kind of triggers we are waiting for to talk about things that are important, I hope we see more, and then it will help us ask questions and then probably know where we are as a country. You can find more details on page 6. 3,620 kidnapped, 5 billion naira ransom demanded in 1 year, says SMB. Lagos lawmakers drop Abayomi, Omotoso, and 15 others from commissioners list. You can find more details on page 3. Russian insurrectionist Prigozhin dies in plane crash. You can find more details on page 2. Naira resumes free fall, depreciates to 890 per dollar at parallel market. UK backs ECOWAS, calls for immediate release of Bazoum. This is still on the Niger coup. You can find more details on page 6. And that's all the news on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Independent newspaper. Crisis view in the Southeast and South-South as APC fills the National Working Committee zone and position. So you can find more of the story on the front page and continue on page 29. Wike is set to revive multi-billion naira Abuja rail mass transit. We hope to see him do even much more. The big story, FG doesn't know how to manage the oil subsidy removal still coming from Obaseki, that is the governor of Edo State. We will work with ECOWAS to restore democracy in Niger. This is coming from the UK. Lagos Assembly dropped 17 out of I take that. Lagos Assembly dropped 17 of Sanwo-Olu Commissioners SA nominees. Indian land spacecraft near South Pole of Moon in historic first. For those who are interested, you can find that story on page 7. NDLEA launches manhunt for Lekki drug dealer who crushed operative to escape arrest. More can be found on page 6. And here we are having NLC threatening pulling out civil servant from National Housing Fund. Well, we hope they give a reason for that, for especially our civil servants who are actively in service. You can find more of that on page 6. Also, we have Autumn ready to defend administration action. You can find that on page 29. We will probe activities of ex-Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. This is coming from the federal government. And we have a picture story here actually showing us more detail of other stories. So you can do well to grab the paper and read a story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian News Direct, PDP Adebutu's case against Abiodun, pack of lies and distortions. That's a statement coming from the APC. We did not divide monies for workers' salaries, coming from the NDDC. You can find more details on page 4. The big story on the paper, local manufacturers earned over 55 billion naira from ban on importation of SIM cards, coming from NCC. Restates commitment to promote indigenous innovations. Operators hint on tariff increase. You can find more details on page 3. Emefiele sibling withdraws suit against DSS and the AGF. NCDMB donates 31 computers, commissions ICT center in Akwa Ibom. Experts speak on legality of proposed revocation of land titles in FCT by minister. You can find more details on page 10. APC names 6 new NWC members, 1 national officer, and on the downside of the paper, we have Lagos House of Assembly clears 22 out of 39 commissioners as a nominees. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
A New Telegraph newspaper coming from NCC. Investment in local SIM manufacturing hits 55 billion naira. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 3. And on the USSD, banks' refusal to pay 150 billion naira debt now political. This is still coming from service providers and the bank, so you can do well to find more detail on page 8. Gas sector will get priority attention, says Tinubu. Coming from Abubakar, he said the NAF to take delivery of 18 attack helicopters. More of the story can be found on page 3 and 4. Also, we have on the issue of World Championship, reigning champion Amusan set to strike gold today. We wish her all the best, and we know Nigeria really rooting for her to give them the best because she has been representing well. The big story on New Telegraph, APC. More trouble for ruling party over the National Working Committee positions. Ganduji shunned humanitarian minister at party secretariat as Edo replaced Cross River. National Welfare Secretary Ozodima substitute Ozobuke with Kwapa and Oshomole's connection. You can do well to find more of that on page 2. Reps to reintroduce gender equality bill, review women's seat in the parliament and the National Housing Fund law. More can be found on page 26. Varsities will begin new curriculum in September. This is coming from the NUC. Do well to find more on page 4. There's nexus between security imperatives, sustainable development, coming from the DSS. Stakeholders advocate single currency for Africa. You can find that on page 26. On fraud allegation, the federal government may settle out of court, coming from a source. Says a writer here, court strike out ex-CBN governor's brother sued against the Attorney General of the Federation and DSS. Lagos Assembly reject Abayomi, 16 others commissioner nominees, confirms 22. Outside we have a study on page 26. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of that study and other stories that are of interest to you.
On over unpaid allowances. Crashed helicopter, NAF assures cruise families of support. We have trending Disney faces bribery charge in UK, and we have number NSIA commits $500 million to domestic infrastructure. You can find more details on page 2. DSS warns governors against shoddy distribution of palliative. You can find more details on page 7. The big story on leadership. Niger crisis concerns as Wagner boss Prigozhin dies in plane crash. His death won't stop Russia's territorial ambition in Africa. Statement coming from expert. Nothing will change if Wagner Group has interest of protecting military junta, coming from Professor Badejo. UK minister backs ECOWAS. More details of the story can be found on page 4. Petrol stations ration fuel as marketers shun importation. Lagos Assembly confirms 22 Sanwo-Olu's nominees, rejects 17. APC names Kyari's replacement, files out vacant NWC zonal office. You can find more details on page 6. We have a picture story showing the plane crash that the Wagner boss died in. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
On this day newspaper, CBN fall JP Morgan's $3.7 billion estimate of Nigerians' net reserve says no cause for alarm. The writer following that story insists close to 80% of funds in reserve owned by Apex Bank. You can find that story on the front page and more on page 10. Lagos lawmakers drop 17 nominees from Sanwo-Olu list, confirmed 22 others. UK Defense Minister, we will work with ECOWAS to restore democracy in Niger. You can start reading from the front page down to and continue on page 10. Also, still coming from Obaseki, he's saying, I'm shocked, scared of federal government lack of plan for Nigerians after ending subsidy. Says palliative deceitful, promises support for Edo people. And there is a caption here that says, I am shocked that people who campaign around the country saying that they will remove subsidies had no clear plan on what to do after subsidy removal. They don't know what to do and how to support those who will be victims of the subsidy removal. Now, Richard, I would like to have your take on this caption. It seems to be making round in most of our papers, though not all. And of course, we know this is the governor of the state. Of course, it's to be expected that charity begins at home. So we'd like to go down to his state to see what he was able to do for the indigents of Edo State. And then we go down to seeing what the federal government have done. Here, it is being captioned here that says palliative is deceitful. So I want to have your take on this.
Stella, nobody saw this coming. Okay? Yes, the campaign palliative will be out and all of that, but nobody knew that immediately the president made mention of that in his speech, that was the beginning of it. So yes, the statement is very true on many levels, and Stella, we've talked about that so many times, that no matter how good a policy is, if it's not implemented well, it becomes a bad policy. And that is what we have been seeing for the economic decision that the president have made ever since assuming office. Yes, did you campaign that you would take out subsidy? Yes. However, was that how you plan on taking it out in your speech? And the next thing we knew, the next day there were no petrol at the fuel station. It was locked down completely. And the following day, when they've decided to open it and make petrol available, the price were twice as what it was previously and all of that. So now it didn't give states either to prepare for what they will give to the citizens of that state. It didn't even give the federal government room to prepare. So yes, because when you want to implement something like this, we keep saying there should have been a plan on what will be done. That's why I made mention on one of these days that as subsidy removal was being removed, palliative is supposed to have started rolling out alongside with it. And that's how Nigerians wouldn't have felt hardship or the pain. And I said, if everybody at every level would have done something, only if they were prepared also at every level. However, that didn't happen. So yes, nobody can be blamed for this apart from the federal government, because it started. If you had given states time to prepare and say, you know what, 90 days from now, we are taking out fuel subsidy. 60 days from now, we are taking out fuel subsidy. On the first day on the 1st of January 2024, we are no longer going to be paying subsidy. There will be subsidy removal from May 29 to the 1st of January. States would have been prepared and say, okay, this is what it means. It means fuel pump price will go as high as 600 naira. Start rolling out palliative plans that will ease the pain of the people in the state. You say we will be floating the currency because we are trying to unify. 90 days from now, the CBN will be floating the currency. This is what it means. Inflation will go this, and that. And as you know, it means that the MPR will also go high. You prepare before you take that decision. However, that wasn't how it was. So yes, it didn't allow anybody to prepare for the hardship that would have come with subsidy removal. But then what is taking the government long now is where we are seeing the fault and the problem. Why are you taking long to roll out this palliative? Why are you taking a long time to start doing the things that will reduce the hardship on the citizens of this country?
Rachel, if you ask for my own perspective on this whole thing, if there's something over the years that this country leaders are known for, is poor planning.
Sure.
You have an idea, brilliant, wonderful idea. You don't call the stakeholders who are more knowledgeable about this particular thing to ask for their take about certain things before you roll it out. Let's cast our mind back to the issue of the new Naira note that came out. It was a fabulous idea because ideally we're supposed to have changed these notes earlier before then.
Yes.
But then, one thing for sure is the fact that before we have these new notes, it's expected that before we have the new notes, it's expected that the banks work in synergy with however the commercial banks, with the CBN, work together, and then we see that these old notes are taken out gradually. True. And then these new notes are actually, being ejected. Rachel, till date, as I speak to you, whenever you go to the ATM to withdraw, we still have a merging of these two notes, both the new and the old. And most time, the old notes are higher. So, for instance, you want to withdraw 10,000 naira, you have old note 7, and then you have the new notes 3.
Yeah.
Now, why am I casting our mind back there? It's the fact that we always have good ideas, but how to carry out these ideas have always been the problem. Now, let's come to the current problem we're having in the country, which is the removal of the fuel subsidy. Before this present government came into power, already the former president had prepared the minds of Nigerians. I will remove the fuel subsidy. And we saw the body language of Nigerians over that time when he said he was going to remove. A lot of people were not okay, but most people were okay with it. Reason why? Because they said some people somewhere are benefiting from this fuel subsidy. Yes, let's remove it. And the president, I clearly remember, if my mind is not failing me, that it was supposed to start from July. Now, for all the 3 top contenders of the position of the president then, all said they will remove it. Now, one thing we never knew was how do they intend to sustain this after removing it. This was something that, of course, we don't expect them to give out their secrets. Maybe it was a secret to them so that another contender does not, buy into it. And now we're seeing that the first subsidy was removed. Just like you said, you will have given Nigerians ample time, especially the states, to set out. Now we're seeing that even the palliative that was given is divided. There is a loan and there is a grant coming from the federal government. Until date, not all is being sent. The 5 trucks of grains that are supposed to send, the 5 trucks have not been sent. Also, just like we made an observation some days ago, was the fact that maybe these grains are going to be coming in batch. And it's obvious that's why it's coming. And no wonder the governor of Edo State is picking up with that. When you go around promising Nigerians to vote for you, the president even said nobody should pity them because they canvass for the vote. So Nigerians should expect them to grow. So why am I taking my time to make this long? Is the fact that as a country, when it comes to implementation of policies, we are very, very poor. I'm happy we now have the ministers. Of course, just like we've raised concern and say some of the ministers' portfolio don't really have what it takes. Maybe they will learn on the job. And of course, they'll be having other advisors that will work with them to point things. But I hope as we have these ministers, of course, concern have been raised that the Minister of Petroleum seems to still be the president because nobody has been given that position. But I hope the president will have ample time to check this. I just hope that even the palliative that have been sent will have a body that will monitor it to be sure. Did it get to the state? Has it been shared? How many people got out of this 5 million, 3 million of this particular state? How many people have? Now, no wonder we're having the issue of the former humanitarian minister. A lot of things were swept under the carpet. I'm going to look at the school feeding. How many schools benefit from that? Yeah. So quite a lot of conversation. But it's my desire and I hope that when talks like this come, it don't just end on the paper. But then we'll see that concerned bodies will pick this up and see what can we do to make sure things are much better than the way they are. Nigerians are still crying. We're seeing that even the Labour is saying that they're going to take civil servants out of the housing fund. So quite a lot of things to chew. And you keep dishing out a lot. You float the naira, you remove the first subsidy, you kept increasing the prices of fuel. Gas today, naira today is 900, tomorrow it goes to 850 another day. And then it's not stable like that. So it's our desire that now that we have all of these technocrats and politicians, you know how these things work, and you take your time to actually do the right thing.
Sele, it's really sad that we have a government, system of government that is comfortable with repeating the same mistake over and over. Why would we have a tag of poor implementation? When you make a mistake once, it's understood it could be a mistake, but when it keeps reoccurring, then it becomes your nature. Then it becomes, you've put yourself in the position, giving your followers the impression that you don't care. Because I keep saying it, the government have all the resources. They have all the resources it takes to make the right decisions, to make the best implementation. You know this policy, you know the effect of that policy, you know the good side of the policy, you know the bad side of the policy. These are all things that you have the resources, you have the intellectuals to put you through, the experts and all of that to put you through these policies, and yet you still refuse to implement it the right way. Then it feels like the government don't care. But I am hoping that the government proves to us that they do care about the situation in Nigeria and start doing something about it, that we will wake up one day and have a government that are willing to implement policies the right way, that won't be at the detriment of the masses in the country, but that everybody will truly benefit from it, and within the period of time that it is set to start achieving what it's meant to achieve, it will. Because we need to work with time. Why is it that we are able to put dates for campaign and you didn't fail to show up on that campaign, and you apologize for not showing up for that campaign? We fix dates for every other thing, but then once you are in the office, time ceases to exist. You don't put policies and put dates allocated with them, because that's how the world works. That's how you are able to achieve things. So how are you able to say this will commence, but you don't have a time frame for it? This will happen, you don't have a time frame for it. And even when you put a time frame, you disregard and you don't work with it. Then it begins to feel like it's more of a deliberate action and I don't care attitude from our government rather than a mistake. Because when you keep repeating the same thing, it becomes your nature, and it feels like that is the nature of the Nigerian government as it is now. But I am hoping truly this is a very new office, and they have all the time to right all the wrongs. They have all the time to fix their mistakes, to correct what is not going well. If it means to rethink some of these policies, they are still in the position to rethink it. However, what we want to start seeing that will of course give us the mind that we have a government for us is let them start doing something drastically about the hardship in the country. They have started, but the force needs to be heard and felt more than it is right now.
Very important that we feel the impact of all of this. Well, we're ripe for a break at this moment, so we'll take our time, and then when we come back, we'll open the phone lines. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zuma Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on Echo Television International. Quite a number of stories we've rolled through this morning. And we'd love to hear your thoughts or your contribution about any of the story by dropping it on our Facebook and YouTube. And then you can also call us by a number that is displayed on your screen presently. Please do remember to turn on the volume of your TV set when you call us. And whatever contribution you want to make should be relevant to what is on the paper. Please, let's try to be civil and be matured with our points and also our comment. Try and sum it up in just a minute at most. Thank you so much. I say have with me Rachel Tanzay. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sally.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch.
On the Punch newspaper, Naira tumbles to 900 per dollar. CBN vows BDC operators clamp down. You can find the details on page 22. Panic as rogue killer soldiers spread deaths on Lagos roads. You can find more details of that story on page 3, 4, and 5. The big story on the Punch newspaper states debt may hit 1.34 trillion naira over palliative loans. Governors to begin palliative loans repayment December. Federal government gives 3 months grace. Gombe Katsina gets 2 billion naira each. Lament inadequate relief items. Obaseki knocks federal government. Fleeing drug baron crushes NDLA officer. Agency launches manhunt. We have a picture of the catch, the officer, and the person that is being manhunted as it is now. You can find more details on page 4. Senate probes public procurement under Buhari. Mine drives tractor into market, destroys 320 million naira property. Assembly drops Abayomi 16 Sanwo-Olu nominees, confirms 22. You can find more details of that story on page 16, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
All right, on the Daily Times, we have Inside Delta, mushroom schools where perverse deeds abound. The writer says sexual indecent booms, SS2 student impregnate own teacher. This really is sad one, Rachel, and this not. Will I say I'm not really that surprised? Because we have a lot of things going on monitored.
Yes.
A lot of things are happening, and nobody cares to check how is the school run. Who are the owners of the school? Does the school belong to the government? Does it belong to a private individual? Are they well registered? Do they have what it takes to be called a school? Because some of them are just maybe some abandoned buildings, and then we just hit something, and then it's been given a name, and then we call that a school. If not, Rachel, how do you justify such a thing where an SS2 student will pregnant teacher?
Yeah.
Something is wrong somewhere.
Something is wrong.
Or we talk about the sexual indecent things that go on in that school.
Schools,
Quite a lot, and this is just in Delta. I am very certain, Rachel, that we have other things in many other states. Possibly this is the one that made the eye of the media, and that is why it made
good
the
morning.
paper this morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's take this call.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We're here again on a Thursday morning, and I saw this caption, palliative. In fact, I go along with Governor Bakati of those states. The so-called palliative, how are they going to distribute it? What are the statistics on ground that are going to use for the distribution of palliative? I hope the whole exercise will not be like palliative from the COVID-19, where they kept all this thing and they got rotten and they sold them. Because I don't see how they are going. We don't have statistics in this country. Is it the civil servants? What about the private workers? Those in the private sector, how are they going to get the palliative? Because whatever affects those in civil service also affects those private ones. We will all go to the same market to buy things. If it continues like this, what are we going to do? The problem is that we don't need this palliative for now. Government ought to have diverted all the money they are generating into a refinery. Put the refineries in order. I don't know why this thing is falling to the deaf ears of the government. When you put the refineries in order, we know what to do. The Nigerians wouldn't have been suffering like this because we have these natural resources. We have the petroleum products in our country. Refine it and sell it to us at a cheaper rate. Nobody will be crying. Now you remove the subsidy the first day in office. You tell them nothing like subsidy, and you are trying to bring out palliative for the subsidies. Is it not a shame? Is it not a crime? We are not, I don't know why we are not sincere when we are in power in this country. We need to change our minds. Okay, the poor people in the villages, how are they going to get palliative? You will not give them a cup of derica of rice and you say you're giving them palliative for how many days, for how many meals? It's a shame. I don't know how government is looking at it. We need to change. We need to change. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
right.
very
Thank you
much,
so
our
much.
caller. Like Sally, I believe Nigerians will be more happy hearing that the government is fixing the refineries than the palliative that won't get to the poorest of poor. And of course, nobody at the state level or the federal government level have given us the formula on how they plan to share it. We're also waiting to see how things roll out. If truly the poorest of the poor in the country will get it, and if we will feel the impact of hardship being reduced on Nigerians. But truly, I believe that we will be more happy if this was channeled through refineries, knowing fully well that within a short period of time, we will have another refinery running in the country, and within another period of time, we will have another refinery running in the country. It means a brighter future for Nigeria than just palliative that is just short term. We are looking for long term development plans that will help the economy as it is now.
Of course, so,
Yes, Ellie.
we just hope for the better,
We
Richard,
hope for
just
the
like you
best.
said. It's not like these refineries are not working totally.
Yes.
But we just need one or two things to just be checked and then
Put it up.
it's
Yes.
working. But it seems there seems to be some very laxity in some people's part.
Yeah.
Well, we hope to see that being picked up.
Yes,
Now, before the
Ellie.
call coming,
Yes,
we're looking
before
at
the call
issues
came.
happening in
Hello?
schools, some secondary schools,
Yes.
basically, because this cannot even be a primary school. All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead. You have a minute to do.
I think we lost that call.
All right, we lost that call. Hope you call us back before the end of the show. So, Richard, let me have your take about this.
Well, Stella, it is sad. We've said that it is very sad. However, I feel there's a lot of negligence going on in secondary school. Just as you said, sometimes even the structures we have are poor. We see a lot of schools that structure-wise don't even pass to be a school in the first place. Even the areas it's been located at is not. But for some reason, schools keep springing up and parents keep taking their children to such school because maybe financial reasons and all of that. But what gets to me the most when you see something like that happen in our school, this shows that relationships are not being checkmate in this school. Because I'm saying, if as a minor, I believe if you're in secondary school, we have few people that are way above their age limit in secondary school. But as a minor, having a relationship with a teacher and your ward or your parent is unaware of is unaccepted. Now, the person that should be blamed, and if we have a good working system, could probably feel jail term is this teacher, because you are not supposed to have a relationship whatsoever with a minor. We have a caller.
People say when we are 40, if we are being poor forever. I think so Nigeria, we are a matured country. You understand me? Hello? But I think my
Can
suggestion
you use the volume of your TV set, please?
use money to bust a cycle that can leave people, or we work on refinery, which every Nigerian will benefit. But sharing of something, few people will get that and benefit. It will not get to every Nigerian. So that's my contribution.
Thank you very much. This is still on the palliative. We need what will get to everybody, not what will only benefit few people. Yes. So now, if we have a system that is working, this teacher, first of all, is not supposed to go scot-free, because you are not supposed to have a relationship with a minor in whatsoever level. Your relationship should be strictly educational. It starts in the school premises and ends in the school premises. And if for some reason you have an interest in a student that goes beyond the classroom, a word, the person's word, the person's caregiver, guardian, exactly, that's the word, guardian, parent, should be very aware of that relationship. But a lot is happening in our schools and nobody is checking them, and that is why we will keep seeing this happening. So for all proprietor out there, for all principal people in key positions, and even for parents, we need to wake up. You need to wake up, of course, and make sure that your words are having healthy relationship with their teachers. Any extracurricular relationship should be monitored, should be defined, and you should know the whereabouts of your students, of your child, regardless of how you think they are matured or not. They are still minors. They are not of the age to engage with a teacher in that kind of way. And if an example should be made of a teacher who should engage a minor in such a way, then perhaps people will learn. But I feel it's all about negligence in our school, and it's high time we wake up and do the needful.
And I hope with this story making it to the paper, it's a wake up call to the other commissioners of education,
Exactly.
the government, and every other person, because the commissioner cannot even do this alone.
Yes.
Go around, check the schools in every state. Try and make it to the local government, because one thing is for sure, they didn't go to all those corners of schools there.
True.
Check, be sure what is going on there. Those teachers, are they qualified to
Are
be
they
teachers?
qualified? Are they
Because most of them, we
professional?
have half-baked teachers.
We do.
And that's why you see things like this. So we hope to see better
We hope
things.
so.
Other stories on the Daily Times, we have FCTA denies report of bid to demolish 6,000 houses. Wike use of 300 million naira bulletproof vehicle. You can find on page 11. Speaker urges committee on NHF to be guarded by fairness. NSIA plot $1 billion into third-party investments. NDDC KPMG sign deal you can find on page 4. The big story, 3 days in office, scandal rocks Art Minister Musawa. She's a serving youth corps member, stroke a minister, that's a rider. NYSC describes status as illegal. Faces 2-year jail term. Likely to face Kemi Oduson's fate. Role of Senate DSS condemns. Now, Rachel, when you see stories like this, it makes me feel somebody somewhere didn't do their assignment.
Of course, that's what it
When
means,
this list was being submitted,
Exactly.
what did the Senate do?
Exactly.
I believe this list went to the DSS and the EFCC.
It did.
Did
There
you
was a
check?
screening
Did you do your
process.
background check as you are supposed to? Why are we seeing this now? That is just to say that a lot of things were wavered away because they didn't do what they are supposed to do. Because that's the only way I can justify this without us seeing that just 3 days into office, scandal is
Yeah,
already
this kind of thing will break everybody's heart because it keeps proving our corrupt nature as a country. Because how did she pass? There was screening. It means someone somewhere passed her despite seeing all the fact that she haven't passed in the first place. So because this are news that go international
Minister
and
stroke
global.
a corporate.
Exactly. These were people that were screened, and some didn't even pass because we had 3 nominees that didn't pass for security
check.
reasons. So how was this one able to pass despite having this kind of issues and fault that could even lead to her going to jail? We are saying that she could face 2 years. This is
Richard, do you
illegal,
know what
and
beats my
all of
mind is
that.
the fact that before she was given the minister, she was being nominated as a special advisor first and foremost.
Exactly. So why are we seeing this? It shows that there's a lot of things that are happening. Not only are people not only sleeping on their job, but it means that we are allowing a lot of things to happen that shouldn't happen, and it only spells corruption in bold letters, and then it doesn't speak well of the country at all.
Well, we hope to see how this whole thing will unveil, and that's all on the Daily Times newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, Nigeria's stock exchange aims to ease FX woes with dollar asset leasing. Bowles propose allowing dollar debt and share issuance, dollar scarcity among biggest challenge of nation's companies. You can find more details of this business story on page 3. BDCs advocate sanctions against fintechs, online firms for forex diversion. Revealed why Lagos Assembly rejected 17 commissioner nominees. You can start with the details on the front page and continue inside
Hello,
the paper.
Sele and Rachel.
We have a call.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hello, Sele. Sele,
Yes, go on. We can hear
Sele
you.
and Rachel, good morning.
Good morning.
Your brother Shaman calling from Kaduna.
Good morning,
We
Mr.
look forward
Shaman.
to seeing a formidable cabinet in the Tinubu's regime. What play out in Buhari we pray it will not play out again because all our presidents are aged parents. So their faculty of thinking, to my opinion, is very, very low. But I can see Tinubu stepping in with a little strength because the way he started, we are suffering. And he said we should give him time. I don't know how much time are we going to give Tinubu for Nigerians to suffer. I think, let me tell you, there are families that cannot even sleep. We are suffering in this country. We are seeing the hell of our life in this country. I pray that the president and his cabinet will get it right in this country so that we take it out of the Crimea find ourselves. Good morning, my sister.
Good morning, Mr. Shamal.
Right.
Thank you so much. We are still praying that the president gets it right and past mistakes don't repeat themselves
Of course,
again.
Rachel.
Still on the Matrix newspaper, the big story, Wike sets record straight, debunks demolition exercise, reports how Tinubu broke jinx by appointing Wike FCT minister. Statement coming from Oshemule, Wike denies using 300 million naira bulletproof car as FCT minister. You can find more details on page 2. In Katsina, panic grips Funtua Bakori residents over alleged occult audio message. APC NWC replaces Kyari Edu with Dalori and Idele. You can find more details on page 8. Russian plane crash kills Wagner boss Prigozhin. You can find more details on page 34. And for the BRICS Summit, Tinubu dedicated to empowering MSMEs coming from Shetima. Man says 77 trillion naira debt may stall Tinubu's economic plan. More details can be found on page 10, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On a Blueprint newspaper, NLC threatened members withdrawal from NHF over the FBMN remittance. You can find that on page 30. Analysts fret over JP Morgan report CBN allies fear. KDSG plan palliative for 1 million vulnerable and Kaduna senior citizens. That's talking about the Kaduna state government. More can be found on page 7. Amid panic over FCT reform, Wike denies purchasing 300 million naira bulletproof SUV. Says I'm yet to settle down, approve a dime. Promises timely delivery of project. Fear grips FCTDA. FCDA management staff. You can find more of that on page 6. The picture story here, we've seen suspected rail track vandals being paraded by the NSCDC, talking about civil defense over there. And we've seen quite a number of stories like this coming up. We're happy that we're able to apprehend these ones. Forex crisis could drive companies to listing abroad, coming from the NGX warning. Political interference reason for lingering 150 billion naira USSD debt, coming from telecoms. Mary Alak emerges women leader as APC fills vacant National Working Committee position. You can find that on page 7. Still on the issue of Emifele, plead by gain likely as lawyers defendant absence to 6.9 billion naira trial. Siblings withdraw case against FG. You can find that on page 6. And that's all on Blueprint newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Wike Bank Street Trading accuses corn sellers others of fueling insecurity. Denies purchasing 300 million naira bulletproof SUV. 6.9 billion naira fraud. Emefiele goes for broke to escape jail. Opts for plea bargain as arraignment stalls again. Federal government said to be disposed to arrangement as president is hamstrung by constitutional provision to sack CBN governor. Court strikes at Emefiele's sibling suit against AGF and DSS. We have a picture story saying, behold, Wike's 300 million naira bulletproof machine. However, we saw it on the previous paper where the minister is saying he just assumed office and is yet to sign or approve a dime. So we will wait and see the truthfulness behind this story. Wagner boss feared dead in Russian plane crash amid Niger coup crisis. Deceased from media attacks on Ayeda Tiwa Ondo Group warns. And still on Niger coup, 7 times ECOWAS military intervened in member state. UK Defense Minister, we will work with ECOWAS to restore democratic rule in Niger Republic. Senator Yayi adopts murdered 8 children, raises 55 million naira for their education. I'll operate from Moshood Abiola National Stadium, not Federal Secretariat, coming from the sports minister. Biden reacts to Wagner's leader's death, says little happens in Russia without Putin's involvement. At the downside of the paper, Rivers police arrest 12 suspected Yahoo boys for burying newborn alive. What a sad one, and we hope more of these people are being found out. You can find more details inside the paper, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
Well, I think, Richard, that's how far we can go on the program
Yes,
this morning.
sir.
Thank you for doing this with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you to our callers who call in on the show. We're truly grateful for your inputs. Thank you to our crew members, our producer, the general manager, and our supporters. Until we come here again, to have a blessed day ahead.